Welcome to Straight to the Point, completely off topic. This is my friend Hip. Hip, when your parents named you Hip, why did they name you Hip? I'm kidding. That's not Hip's real name. Um, Hip is an amazing tattoo artist. And would you mind giving your handle at your Instagram so that they can follow along if they want to or see any of your work?
Sure, totally. So my IG is at hip underscore 81.
Because underscores are a good idea.
Well, the domain of hip or hip 81 was taken. So, and they're
Right.
dead IGs. So, like, no one uses them, but I can't get them. So I just went with the underscore because I seen that was like trending when I got an Instagram.
I just heard a comedian making fun of underscores recently. He's
Yeah.
like, because his whole thing was underscore so that he could have some unique stuff, and he did it. He like overdid it or something. Anyways, I didn't know if maybe it's turning into the new AOL. Like I have a Hotmail account, so I still get laughed at from tellers and shit like that. Those, oh, Hotmail.
I didn't even know that was still enabled.
Exactly. That's the way everybody looks at me like that. But it's like my name at Hotmail. So how do you get rid of? And I'm I'm one Hotmail.
Yes, you are.
But Hip, that's so people could follow along with your work. But I really wanted to have you on because of your work, one with YouTube as the Tattoo Guardian, or as a member of the Tattoo Guardians. And if anybody isn't familiar, there's an awesome podcast and video on YouTube where Joshua Carlton, Matt Clemmer, and Hip get together and discuss any wide ranging variety of topics that might be pertinent to tattoo artists. Is that a fair assessment?
Totally, totally is.
And then I don't know which we should get into first because you're also a member of TBM, which stands for the Bowel Movement.
The bowel movement. Yes, correct.
Now, the big movement. No, it actually stands for Tattoo Business Mastery. Am I wrong?
Correct.
Okay. So again, as a consultant, he is available, and also as a because you're doing this one-offs with people too, right? You're not just doing there's the classes where people are getting involved, but I've been really impressed that friends of mine, some very high-level artists, are working with the three of you guys in individual contexts too.
Oh man, that's amazing to hear. Yeah, we've had a good outreach, and again, like it's Clemmer's brainchild, the TBM, and working with him for so long, I just um, kind of had a fix on who he is and how he operated. And he was kind of pouring into us first before he started it, and he figured out a way to formulate it to like actually get a blueprint to explain to people kind of like how to implement it in their life and in their business.
Because I guess at one point it was all just a bunch of what catchphrases and one-liners of sorts,
Yep,
and it kind of be need to be nailed down as like a curriculum.
correct. Yeah, we call them Clemmerisms.
Okay, that would make
Yeah,
sense. And Matt Clemmer is, I hope to have him on eventually because if my audience isn't going to bleed over and watch Tattoo Guardians or listen to him, because your guys are also available on Apple and iTunes and Spotify and all that, right?
correct. Yep, anywhere you get your podcast.
So if you're not going to do that as well, then at least I'd like to, because you got to know Matt's a fucking character, man. He's like a wizard.
Yeah, looks like one too.
Yeah, like a literal. I didn't even mean it figuratively.
Well, if figuratively too, both ways.
Yeah.
It's I often have to go on the more so the offensive to let people know when they first meeting. Like I'll pull them to the side and be like, "Now check it out. You're going to think there's something, ulterior motive with him, but this is just
Yeah.
how he is, man."
Yeah. Yeah. Like people can't, a lot of times in our day to day, we kind of have to we have to shield our inner self, right?
Yeah, the way that society's going, and in the way that there's everyone's trying to get all of us divided, and not to mention just the tattoo industry in general. It's like you're not supposed to even be cool with other tattoo artists and tattoo shops. You got to fucking hate them and shit. And it's like,
Right.
so cynicalism is already like a thing that's just kind of programmed or birthed into people already. So when someone comes genuine and just like you because they like you, even though they don't know you, it sets a weird tone for people and they don't
Yeah.
know how to receive it.
You could liken it, in my opinion, because everybody loves Mr. Rogers. He was a great guy and avoided scandal. So awesome. And he was a great guy. Everybody
Mhm.
loves Mr. Rogers. But if you met him, you'd probably be a little bit off, right? You'd be like, I don't know, man. That guy's just way too nice for me to trust anything he's doing.
Right.
And Clemmer's kind of similar, but he really is that. My experience with him too. I met him. Let me give a little brief backstory. Sorry to be so off the point too, because it seems like we're just starting off on fuck hip, whoever the hell he is. Let's talk about his friend Matt Clemmer. But it's very important for TBM, the tattoo business mastery, which I met when he was doing a seminar with Kyle Cotterman in Massachusetts, and the two of them teamed up to do a seminar, and we ended up learning way more about business and about our business, about what tattooing truly is and probably should be, than we almost did about tattooing. Maybe 10% of it was on tattooing, and 90% was like, well, how do you get the clients that allow you to explore who you want to be as a tattoo artist?
Mhm.
Anyways, that was what I like to imagine was probably the beginning of that, because we got a lot from that. And it was my first introduction to him. I had no idea who Clemmer was. I took it because Kyle Cotterman was there. And if anybody isn't familiar with that motherfucker's work, ooh, it's kind of shit will make you want to bite your fingers off and just be like, ah, well, I guess I don't need a tattoo anymore.
Right, or
It's good.
bite his fingers off.
Yeah, depending on how violent you want it to be. But then he's a nice guy too. You have a hard time with it. And it, at any rate, Ohio has been blessed. Are you in Ohio or Indiana?
I am in Ohio.
That's what now it's been blessed with some tattoo art history back then or out there. And you are, as a member of that elite echelon of people who can put your grandmother's face on your body and it look like your grandmother's face on your body.
Yeah.
I do that and it looks like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I have to tip my head. That's not me saying that. That's literally all of Twitter. Thank you guys. Appreciate that. It was accuracy days, my only defense. Um, but she wasn't Texas Chainsaw, so I don't know. Yeah, I've seen you. I've seen beautiful work that you've done, but I also know that you have a testimony of sorts, like a history. Like you weren't always doing good work.
Mm, no, I was not. And you're correct. I've never had an official apprenticeship. Tattooing, I didn't even know what really it was about. I got my first tattoo when I was 18 from a local legend, Glenn Scott here. He had a bunch of shops. I would, old school tattooer, real good
Mhm.
businessman. I got my first tattoo, and like that was kind of it. It wasn't until I went to prison, and one of my cellmates had gotten a sleeve, a Paul Booth sleeve. So basically, just another
While he was
inmate.
inside.
Yeah, well, what it was some people were sneaking in some tattoo magazines, and
Hmm.
it was the Paul Booth piece with they Jesus was crucified, and there was like a demon nun and a demon pope. And
Oh
the,
God.
I think it was a back piece, but the inmate put it on the arm, and he copied it verbatim, which
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about that either, but I just remember seeing it and seeing human or humanoid faces on someone, and that was the first time I realized, like, you're telling me you can tattoo people on people? Because even
Yeah.
as a young kid and being in high school and junior high, like I just always liked to do portraits in people's faces because it was always said that it was the hardest thing to do. And, I'm a martyr, so I got to do the hardest thing there is to do. Um,
Okay.
and I just kind of like fell in love with it. And a couple dudes from Hilltop in Columbus put a machine in my hand and had me do like a tribal design. And they're like, now inside of it, like draw an eyeball or draw a fucking bird or a chicken or some shit. And then if you fuck it up, it's tribal. So just color it in black. And it,
That was your learning process.
pretty
This
much.
was
Yep.
after you were locked down. Then you
No,
got out.
this was in prison.
Oh, they put a real machine in your hands though, or you mean
No.
it was a Walkman or something?
Yeah. Walkman motor attached to some batteries with a fucking pin spring for a needle.
Do you feel bad for these kids nowadays that they don't really get to use Walkmans?
I do, man. They just don't, we're robbing them of their struggle.
Yeah, well, they're artistic. I've often felt that if we had more robust art programs and art fields of career choices and education to teach people that hey, there's a life here, then I don't know that there. I think 25% of the prison population could have just been at an early age, third grade and on, diverted.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Man.
I think if I had more put into seeing that there was a career with that, because I knew I was good at it, but it didn't ever like we used to see the only thing we knew about artists was there was a commercial that would come on during the cartoons. It was like starving artist sale. Come on down to such and buy all this artwork for your walls and stuff. And we were like, starving artist, that doesn't sound good.
Right. That's funny that you say that because I've always heard that term, starving artist. And like, even as a kid, like, I was the kid that like didn't really pursue too much of my artistic ability, and I had a boatload of it. And I just had always heard the term starving artist and just assumed that like there's no money in this. Let me become Tony Montana.
Okay, and that must have landed you. That's what I was about to ask. What landed you in jail? But your aspirations of Tony Montana, was that it?
It was, and come to find out that I became my best customer. So
Oh
that
yeah.
that led it into the whole dope fiend, the geeking and creeping, and has just cost me, so much time. And to be honest, I'm on borrowed time right now, so that's why I always try to like
Why
live
do you
everything to the fullest. I was never expected to be this old.
why are you on borrowed time? Where's this reference? What's up?
Well, basically, like the statement, I never predicted to be this old. I had other
Okay.
plans. I was content with being the guy that you would tell your kids not to be like because he had so much talent. Um,
Just
so
wanted to put it on your forehead, cautionary tale, huh?
oh yeah, like if I could die and be a statistic that you could learn from, that was basically what I thought my purpose here was going to be.
You did already say you were a martyr, so you will
Yes.
die on it. And you were like, I want to do the hardest thing,
Mm,
portraits.
yep.
Right on.
And self-destructive behavior was a big part of that. And, just getting caught up in the addiction. This is what put me in prison
But
and
did you
jail
have
multiple
trauma that
times.
you're answering to, kind of that made you your best seller, or it was just such a good product?
Um, uh, well, superficially, yeah, it was a good product, but ultimately, I think that I loved life so much that I was too scared to live it, so I wanted to be numb to it. And yeah, trauma, I would say, is in all of us. Um, from growing up without a father, I always was a different kid, like very unique, in and out of behavioral schools, in and out of jail. Talk shit, then you'd punch me in the face, and then I'd run and tell someone, like just very cowardice and scared and wanted people to like me, and was always looking for that attention that I never could get from my father. So I found out that if I just acted out, I got attention. It may not have been positive attention, but people were paying attention to me. So I just kind of rolled with it. And
It became what you knew, huh?
Exactly. And, you know, my father, my biological father, he died from alcoholism. He was supposed to take his insulin shot and instead chugged like a fifth of vodka and fell back and busted his head open. So, needless to say, the fruit didn't fall too far from the tree.
Well, that's a large amount of trauma. What age did he do this at? Did he pass away at?
Uh, so I think it was 96, and so he was gone all my childhood, in and out like drunken um episodes, and him and mom argue, or she would like he would show back up from Florida and rent a hotel, like a busted ass hotel room, and my mom later I found out that she was the one that bought all the gifts, and he signed them as if they were from him, and he just looked my mom made me believe that he was a
Wow.
superhero. You know, she didn't use me as ammunition for him and never talked bad about him and around me, which is amazing, and it's very it's something that I appreciate, because I nowadays it seems like if there's a kid involved, both parents use each other and back talk to the child, which shouldn't
Right.
be.
But she was trying to create almost a mythic figure of like this guy's too good to be around us or something.
Yeah,
But that really
kind of, yeah.
sets you up for, I mean, not I'm not saying like she knows this, but it seems as though it could really set you up for, well, then why isn't my awesome dad at the baseball game?
Right,
Right? Or like, why isn't he taking me to the park? My dad's awesome, but I'm
right.
not good enough.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of times in finding out through being in recovery, there was an instance where, and I've shared this a lot on the podcast, but I was about 3 or 4, and my dad was threatening to kill himself, and my mom threw me in the car with her. You know, we're talking the '80s, so I was in the front seat, no seatbelt. We didn't need that
Mm.
shit. Um, she drives to this place out in the middle of the country that he's staying at, like these this motel or um, houses next to each other, and his front door is open. She gets out the car, runs inside. I get out the car because I see my dad walking around the back, and he jumps in his pickup truck. I grab the tailgate of his pickup truck and I'm screaming for him to stop, and he's backing
Wait,
up.
you're like 3 years old, you say?
For anywhere between, maybe not 3, maybe that's an exaggeration. I know I was very, very young, so like four or
Right. This is
five.
early ass memory, but oh my, so you're in this dangerous ass spot too.
I
He's
am.
raging and not necessarily sober even.
No, 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 he wasn't
Oh,
sober.
fuck.
So I'm holding on to the tailgate, and he's backing up, and I'm screaming like "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy!" And then he pulls forward, takes off, and you know I can't hold on, so I fall and tumble and
Right
roll.
on your face. Okay.
Yep. And he pulls out and goes down the street around a curve and gets in a wreck, and then gets a DUI. So like now I've
Cops end
noticed.
up coming too at the same scene. Has it become a whole day event?
I just remember that it was something bad, like my dad did something bad. And I don't
Mhm.
remember seeing the cops or anything, because by that point, my mom had heard me screaming and came outside. There she was again to save me. But I've noticed there's been a trend in my life that like I've got like I like to say that I'm a mama's boy with daddy issues. So anytime like I look up to an older male, I really want to like make them appreciate who I am. And anytime I let them down, I instantly resort back to being that little boy that was like screaming for his daddy.
Right. Right.
Uh,
This
and you
takes
know,
some, you're working on yourself to know this, brother. You're going through some counseling or something for sure, huh? Or you've been
yeah,
through, I should say.
well, you could call it counseling. So I'm a part of an anonymous program, and in that, you know, we get workbooks and basically like repeat like what we like to call step work, and it's free counseling. Honestly, you just get
Mhm.
someone that's been there and gone through it to guide you through it. So I always like to say that, you know, it's spiritual warfare. And imagine the person that's guiding me through it, he's standing on the other end of the minefield. He's just screaming back at me like, step right, step left, walk forward. He's
Right.
guiding me. But yeah, you know, I'll have only by grace, I'll have 10 years clean and sober in March. And that whole
Congrats.
10 years has been me like really be the same curiosity that made me curious to like squeeze a vial of acid till the sides touch to see the sky melt is the same curiosity that when I found out that drugs were just the main symptom, but there's so much more. And I don't have a drug problem, I got a me problem. That really
Mm.
enticed me to be like, man, what does what makes me tick? Why do I do this? Why when I was a young kid, when I would draw something and everyone would tell me it was great, I would just like be in complete denial and scream at them, go and slam my door, and then physically punch myself in the face because it wasn't as good as someone that I seen in school that was in a couple grades higher, you know?
Right. Oh my God, you fucking idiot. No
I
offense, but you fucking idiot.
know.
I get it.
And
Please, I have daddy issues too. My dad died when I was young. Wasn't abusive in an absent way, but in an overbearing Christian way. He had his own abuses, so there was all these traumas and competition. So I definitely understand how it feels. I can empathize. I can't say I understand how it feels though to displease somebody like a male person that you looked up to. And
man,
then also, if I'm not wrong, it, I have this. If you compliment my work, I'm like, I'd rather not hear it.
man, you know that, and that's great because you know, I had a lot of imposter syndrome coming and becoming clean that I was becoming aware of.
What's
Lack of
imposter syndrome? Help me with that.
so imposter syndrome is like, let's say you're at a convention and you get a trophy, and you see that, like, let's say you know some of the people that are judging. You get the trophy and you smile and you take your picture and you walk back, but in your mind, you're like, they just did that to make me feel better about myself. But in the
Mhm.
same hand, if you don't get the trophy, now all of a sudden you're like, this shit's fucking rigged. Like it's bullshit. Like, so you're always an imposter.
Or like they almost did that. If you think on one hand they did that for my benefit, then you almost think too, there's a chance either they did that for someone else's benefit or they did it simply to spite and hate me because they just hate me. Is
Right.
that
Totally, totally is even now, you know, like a lot I deal with a lot of imposter syndrome like on the podcast because like the great Joshua Carlton, my mentor Matt Clemmer, I
mhm.
get to sit here. We've interviewed Saint Mark and Guy Aitchison, fucking Nico, like
Awesome?
so many people, and it's
Oh
like,
my
who am
God.
I to be doing this? And I'll think that, and then I got to remember, like, you know what? I didn't get this far just to get this far. My feet are where they're at on purpose. Even this, such a
Hmm.
compliment to be asked to do another podcast, like,
Well, I
you know,
appreciate that.
man, dude, and it's such an honor because I'm just some, you know, in my mind, I'm always that dope fiend from Ohio that
Or
didn't,
that kid grabbing a
yeah,
hold of that truck.
that little boy that his daddy didn't want, but yet here's people wanting my time and wanting to speak to me or learn from me
Hmm.
or teach me something. So it's like it just goes to show that sometimes our feelings are not always reality.
So I'm imagining that at the point that you can find wellness in this, you don't just address and recognize then that you have these issues around your father, but then you almost have to one forgive yourself for having these issues around your father, but also forgive him for any part that he would create of that, because I'm sure at one point you have to begin to wonder what the fuck happened to him that would make anybody not want to be around their kid.
Man, you know, and I always say that expectations are premeditated resentments, and being a
Oh,
little
okay.
being a
Hmm.
little kid and not knowing any better, of course I expected my father to be there, and rightfully so. But as I've gotten older and started applying like more compassion, understanding, and empathy into my life, it's like, well, he was an alcoholic. He was sick. I can relate that to my experience. Have I ever done some fucked up shit to someone that they're probably still pissed at me for because I was an addict and fucking
Right.
neglected that relationship? Yeah, so I understand. And my wife actually has been trying to find his graveyard because there's no gravestone. And she told me one year, I think it was about a year ago, she's like, look, your dad was sick like we are. Um,
Mhm.
and he didn't get help for it. So here he is in the cold, wet ground by himself that no one knows where he's at. And I've also heard another addict share before that part of their amends process to their father, who basically did the same thing my father did, was to like buy them a gravestone because like if I harbor that resentment and hold on to it, all I'm doing is fucking myself over.
I thought, yeah. I thought, have you been able to find where he's buried yet?
I don't know if it's karma or what, but like his birthday is October 24th, and for the longest time I would remember it, and just kind of like give myself a moment on that day. But in the last 2 or 3 years, it completely skips my mind. It's almost like what he probably did with me, and it's not doing it on purpose, but eventually, I'll put it to rest. Like this is how blessed I am. My mom got with a gentleman who's basically been my father, and he's my stepfather. I've actually taken his last name, so my last name Sheltman is an adult adoption that I did, which was part of my amends process to him when I got clean. But my original last name was Pitstick.
How awesome is it that you had, I guess you realize that now that you had someone that stuck with you as, I mean, that's why, that's why your amends process even existed. But this guy went through hell, I'm imagining, as
Oh
you
my
were
God.
taking people with you. That the way the epidemiology of drugs is that it hurts your friends and family,
Oh yeah.
like harder than you almost.
Yeah. It was bad. I was the one out of the four kids that both, five kids. My mom had three, my older sister and older brother, and he had a son and a daughter, and we came together, and they couldn't hold a candle to me, dude. I'd set houses on fire, in and out of jail, busting beer bottles in the road, keying cars, shooting animals with paintball guns and fucking pellet guns. Like I was just constantly in some bullshit.
Is it a cascading effect of where you since you're not getting the attention that you need, which is love from your father, but you are getting attention, which is negative attention because it's what you found to get. But the negative attention can never be what you want. So you always are finding more ways to get negative attention.
Well, it gets into that cycle of insanity. Like I get negative attention. It's not what I want. Now I'm pissed off because it ain't what I want, but I'm too immature to realize that it's my actions that are causing the attention that I'm getting. If I would just be fucking
Mhm.
normal, I would start getting a little bit more love from people. But it's their fault. I'm self-centered by nature, so I'm always trying to see someone else that I can point my finger at to blame them for the reason of why I am who I am or why I'm acting the way I'm acting. So yes, it would just be a constant cycle of insanity of get the attention, didn't meet my expectation, get pissed, act out again. And before you know it, I'm so deep in it that now I'm starting to question like my belief system. Like, well, if there is a fucking God, fuck him, because he wouldn't have let this happen to me. And if there
Right.
is one, I've done too much dirt, so he's forgot about me and just left me alone. Which ultimately doesn't serve me in any direction. But fortunately enough, my higher power when I got clean was a jury of my peers and a set of handcuffs because that did what I couldn't do for myself.
And for people that don't, in 12 steps, one of the first things you have to do is admit that you're powerless to this drug or alcohol, right? And then you have to have a higher power because that thing is going to see you through. And I've had some people who are agnostic or even atheists, and they explain that they're like, dude, I just had to have a higher power in a rock. I was like, that
Mm-hmm.
rock is constant. It will be here before me. It will be here after me. And
Very,
that somehow worked.
very true. Yeah, it's just it's basically getting out of your own way and giving, some people use the group of people to as their higher power because, like right now, like I've got goosebumps talking to you about this stuff. And it's entertaining on both ends, I would imagine. And it's like we are
Mhm.
keeping each other accountable, we're keeping each other entertained, we're keeping each other positive. So there's a power and an energy being created through this dialect right now. And the same can be done because yeah, I know tons of agnostic people. I got a friend who's a Satanist that's in recovery, Muslim, um, Christian, Buddhist, like the
Now,
whole
as
realm.
Satanist, he's not the old school kind that we would imagine that then believes in an actual evil being that he worships with blood sacrifices, but instead he is more a troll to Christians, or not.
I'd say a little of both, probably more on the troll side.
Okay, I've got a friend that is become a Satanist, but I mean, when we really talk about it, we're like, dude, you're just a troll. You're just like you're just like, oh yeah, is God super cool? You know what? I think Satan's cool. Boom.
Right.
Yeah,
Hail Satan.
it's like the guy that goes to the Ohio State game in a Michigan jersey, right?
Oh yeah, totally.
It's like, I like it, man. It's what I'm into. um, at any rate, I love talking about our past when it's a little grimy like this for tattoo artists because, well, one, my past's a little grimy, but also I really do believe that given direction and understanding, and as we work to have the tools, like your father didn't have the tools necessarily for recovery, and that maybe isn't because I believe it's probably because our society has progressed to where we recognize we need these tools, and so we
Mhm.
make them available somehow. And so, like, there's been a betterment of it now. You're able to get these tools for recovery and see things different and begin to fix your own life projection. But I mean, we all hope the same then for younger people like ourselves who might be going through the same, that don't know that they could be a tattoo artist, that don't know that they could have a life in art or creativity, which is, or even know why they're the way they are. And it's
Mhm.
probably because you're not creating. Like if you're out there, vandalizing, I mean, that's a step away from being a painter. I mean, so right. Like, were you doing
Right.
graffiti before you were painting?
No, I actually have only like tagged one wall. Other than the if I had a fucking permanent marker in school, I'd fucking throw a dick on anything that I could get away with. So I
It's the
guess I'm a
same
graffiti
scream out,
artist.
right? Like, hey, look at me.
Yeah.
Like I I feel kind of I think that's why I don't want people to realize that I want them to like me. And so when I'm doing paintings though, I recognize that that's exactly what I'm asking for. I'm like, look at this thing I've created. Like me a lot. I don't want to be around while you do though. I'm going to leave the room, but please like it.
Right.
I think there's something about an angst there. Something about whatever it is that so I go to a school and I talk my school, my former school, the one I dropped out of. Shh, don't tell the teachers there that have me at the school to talk to their children about a career in art. But I go to the art class and I talk to these kids about, your possibilities of being a tattoo artist and how rewarding it is for me. And I've watched that class throughout the time. Actually, I'm not even invited back now. I wonder if they even have it. It went from a dedicated art teacher to a gym teacher slash art teacher to I mean, it like the size of the budgetary giving to that art class was just diminished
Mm,
over this time that I'm watching, and so much smaller already. When I was talking to them, it was smaller than when I was a kid there at the same high school. And it failed for me to make me see that art could be my direction. That
mm.
that school, in my opinion, I mean, I have to take blame for it, of course. But at the same time, I want to say that there were a lot of people who recognized my artistic ability, but were never able to help me connect that with, you know, a career or an
Right.
idea of a future. And with that hopeless kind of outlook, I was ready for crime, especially after we smoked some of that weed and found out that Nancy was lying about that shit.
Right.
You're like, well, I wonder if she's lying about crack too. This
Yeah.
weed is fucking dope. This bitch don't know what she's missing. This
Right.
fuck crude ass bitch. I bet she waited until she got married to have sex.
Good old Reaganomics, man.
I listened to somebody's advice like that. Um, I not that they failed, but I really strongly want us as just people to be aware that if we have bigger, robust art programs, then those people that you worry about breaking into your houses, doing drugs on your lawn, all the they're not going to be there.
Hmm.
They're going to be diminished. You know, when you worry about the people in the homeless shelters and but we don't make art available to children like oh, that's I'm like let me get off my soapbox actually about it.
No, no, I appreciate it because it's true, and it's funny because I'm hearing this and I'm thinking about like I've only been tattooing 9 years, and I'm thinking about like all those old schoolers that are like the gatekeepers
Hmm.
of the tattoo industry. And the beautiful thing with the tattoo industry, right, is it's bigger than us. So what I mean by that is like tattooing chose me. I didn't choose tattooing. And people that choose tattooing, it will weed you out if you're not built for it. But
Hmm.
having an avenue of an opportunity to know how to get into it, it's almost like what is it, like it's like an immune system. It's self-cleaning, and it will get rid of the viruses and the things that aren't meant to be there. So it's like the more knowledgeable or um, more um, uh, areas to get into it or know how to get into it or know about it that become more available. It's very true because some of those criminals or soon to be criminals could try it out and it could change their life forever, and they could get accepted into the tattoo industry and become a successful tattooer. Or maybe they're like, man, this ain't my bag, but I like music, or this really ain't my
Right.
bag. I like oil painting, and I never would have experienced this if I wouldn't have dipped my toes into the realm of tattooing.
I have a son who's locked up right now. He's and when we go visit him, there's generally a really beautiful exhibit of artwork that some inmates have done. And your general thought when you know that someone's locked up, and you might even find out what their sentence is, because it's always a
Mm-hmm.
curiosity. Like that guy that did that beautiful portrait that's out there in the front, like with oil, like who did that and how much time does he have? It's just a weird curiosity because you automatically kind of think, man, that's kind of a sad, wasted talent, isn't it? You know?
Mm-hmm.
Eh, But that exists in there. Like, I don't think that guy was doing that before he got there. He found out that that was his thing, you know?
Yeah,
And if he found it out here, then we'd be further along. He'd be further
man.
along. Yeah. I I think you're at, I think I'm absolutely right. No, but there more music, and these things keep being taken out and we put in its place. We what one budget we don't touch in the high schools are football, and we need bigger pillows for their heads when they're smashing into each other. And I'm not trying to preach against football. We're living in Detroit here,
Mm-hmm.
so what that means is we didn't give a fuck about football unless we were going to college for the longest time because we have the Lions. and but now that their season has lasted beyond Thanksgiving, I messed up and even thought that yesterday was today because I was like, wait, it can't be the Lions game, and I thought I had a podcast with you. And I don't care about football in the least because that's been bred into me for so many years of not being able to have any pride in our football. But that the football stays, the sports that puts people in the chairs stays, but the artwork that keeps people out of prison stays. It boggles my mind how we don't have a better understanding of the relations of these things and then more budgets devoted to them specifically because we recognize that I mean one statistic I've heard is that third grade, and I could be completely misusing this I guess, but third grade um statistics for enrollment in classrooms are equal to with the number of people that are not attending at third grade, you'll have that same number of people in the jail cell from that area will also be incarcerated.
Oh,
Like
wow.
and statistically go up and down and fluctuate from area to area. But with that knowledge, it seems like a relative easy fix to begin to make sure enrollment is, going on at schools. Offering more to the people about what they're going to learn about. I don't know. Now I really am getting far off track. But one reason I'm stuck on education is because I feel like that's where TBM is of some sort. It's a community of education. Am I wrong?
Man, it totally is. So back when the Earth stopped spinning, um, we would see things on social media where people were just like bummed and depressed, and like shops were closing down. People were
Mm,
having to get other jobs besides tattooing. And Matt created this place called the Tattoo Guardians. And it was a platform that anyone could get into. And it was just a safe place to like vent and like reach out for help during these like tough times with the pandemic and everything.
was it a
Uh,
Facebook page, you mean, a website?
yeah,
That's
it was a
where the
Facebook
Tattoo
face.
Guardians actually originated?
It was, and so
That's awesome.
it's funny because like when Carlton was like, well, let's call it the Tattoo Guardians, and we all three were kind of worried that like people thought that we were putting ourselves on a pedestal, like we are the guardians, and like it was more so for the community of our listeners. Like if you listen to us and if you agree and you want to leave tattooing better than you found it, then fucking you're a guardian, man.
Yeah.
Like so it
The
started
guardians
big.
exist in the comment section, not the people that are necessarily the faces on the videos in the
Exactly.
podcast. I follow.
Exactly. And so he started that group. And since he wasn't tattooing, he started thinking like, man, he and Matt's a dude that like, he'll drop hundreds of thousands of dollars on coaches and like the Tony Robbins things, the Les Brown, like public speaking, entrepreneurship, which is something that's really taboo and foreign to the tattoo industry because as far as that goes, you got seminars or you could buy a DVD,
Hmm.
or when you go to a convention, you go in and learn how to run a fucking nine liner at what volts and how to saturate and black and gray and all the technical ability of tattooing, which is equally just as important. Well, Matt had a vision to like, he's seen everybody's heart breaking over this pandemic, and then he just started instilling and like doing test runs and like beta runs and putting into words and into a curriculum of what he was basically like teaching us, and had taught other tattoo artists like at Brian Brenner and Truth and Triumph's shop and stuff. And how you bared
Because
witness
you
to
guys
it.
were still working, was it, during this time yourselves, or
No, I was
okay?
actually when everything shut down, I was at Carlton's shop guest spotting at Blackbrush, and then ended up having to drive back. But um, you know, Josh did an online seminar, and Matt was running it by him, and that was actually when we got impregnated with the idea to start the podcast because it was Joshua's idea. But at
Mhm.
the same time, Matt was enrolling students on like a beta launch of what TBM was, and it was kind of like splattershot, dude. Like we were literally upstairs at the tattoo shop in front of a laptop, talking to like maybe 12 students, and it was kind of just banter with Clemmerisms involved. And then he
Hmm.
tried it again. He actually, his first seminar, once everything started going getting back, was he did a TBM seminar at Hell City, and I was tattooing, but I quit tattooing to like see what how many people were in there, and no one showed up to it. And I remember being bummed because like I was like defeated for him, but he was like, "Well,
Right.
it hurts, but fuck it." And he continued to push and push. And now every 3 months we enroll 50. We only let 50 students in, and it's all over the globe. We've got people in Russia right now, Poland, England, Canada, a lot of
Oh,
people
wow.
from Georgia, like the state Georgia, not the country. um, but
Okay.
just students everywhere, and it's a private group, and we just teach like money mindset, that because we're programmed to believe that like money's this bad thing or it's evil and we shouldn't talk about it, but we kill the stigma of that. And into the things that you learned with the seminar with him and Cotterman, to how to attract the right client, how to nail a consultation and stay in the authority and the power of it. And then that's a 3 month course, and then after that's over, if there's any shop owners, he's got 7 figure tattoo shop, which is a level up, and we're getting ready to start kind of like the next level of TBM for any students that want to continue it. But like, man, the magic that's been birthed out of there, like an
Seven figure.
artist.
I'm still jaw dropped. 7 figure tattoo shop is the course.
Yeah, and that's a year-long course, and he works with shop owners
Well, it
to
seems like that should fill up quick.
well,
Unless you're asking 7 figures for it, it seems like the investment is. At least I'm going to hold you to it. We'll see you in small claims court about this one. I'm making 6 figures. They're all nines, but damn it, you said seven. All right.
So
I
yeah.
guess that, but that's awesome. I mean, honestly, there's a lot of imagination that there is and I've heard this from very successful tattoo artists, not tattoo artists, tattoo shop owners. And sometimes I think there's a real difference in, like, if you want to be a technical tattoo artist, owning a shop will hold you back. I've
Mhm.
experienced that. I do not own a shop now because I'm not as good as I want to be tattooing. I'm still learning. So I don't have the time to dedicate to babysitting. But
Right.
I've ran into some people that were great, and they didn't even, some of them at least didn't even tattoo. And I asked them about their opinions on it. You know, there's almost forbidden a lot of times in the industry. You're like, he doesn't tattoo and he owns a shop. Terrible guy. And it can be. However, I know that you know this too. Sometimes it's the right fit. Like, that guy is doing a business and he's doing it right, and he's dialing it in. And that's what they told me about, is there, like, there's imagination of a glass ceiling for shops. They're like, you can't make this certain amount of money at a tattoo shop. It's just going to be right here. And any more than that, you're being greedy. You're ripping off your client base, or any less than that, and you're ripping off your artists. And that was the imagination. So they tell me, and they're like, it doesn't exist when you start to apply certain principles, basically about getting clientele that one becomes self-acquiring, um, where you're working on their friend and you're really working the relationships, which I hear a lot of that from tattoo guardians. And I know Clemmer, and that's got to be this huge part of it, is relationships with your client base is what's going to see you through a pandemic or see you through um, Christmas.
Man, totally. And Matt always says that people don't care that you know until they know that you care. So it's always genuine, authentic. Um, and everybody has the ability to do it. I used to think that it was manipulation to try to get money from clients, but then I had to look at the big picture, and I'm like, you know what? I do like people. I'm an
Mm-hmm.
introvert most of the time, but if I look at it through my client's eyes, I'm in a tattoo shop. 100% of the time. It's not weird to me to be in a tattoo shop, but that chick that's never been tattooed before, that's excited to get her infinity symbol on her arm, and she's never been into a shop, and she's like singing her favorite song real loud on the radio on the way to the tattoo shop, only to walk in and be treated like, oh, it's another fucking Karen that wants another stupid Pinterest tattoo. Like, I'm sure
Right.
that's very defeating. But if you stay and think about what it's like for them, they're scared, they're intimidated. Like, we look scary. We got tattoos on our faces. We wear all black. We fucking like weird, crazy music.
Mm.
So to be greeted with a smile and treated like she's important, because ultimately she is, she's the reason that
She's
there's
paying your Christmas.
Exactly. That's the reason I got presents under my tree and shoes on my feet. And I got this computer that I can talk to you with, is because of those people, and they're important. Um, and to keep nurturing that, you're sitting with someone for, I don't know, 4 to 8 hours a day, intimately close. Um, you get to know their passions, their fears, their desires, their dreams, their loves, their hates, where they
Well, I'm
came
going to say
from.
you do if you're going to end up with a client that comes back, but in some cases you don't, but you'll never see that person again, and you'll never they're not putting Christmas tree presents under your tree.
Right. And it seems like a lot of times the people that bitch about, um, it's not about the money. It's not about the money. Those are usually the people that have no money, because the people that have money know that it's not about the money, but just being genuine and caring about someone and giving them the best tattoo you can possibly give them. Money is just part of the process, and it just
Mm,
flows to it. And there's a famous Gary Vee quote I like, because you were talking about like the imagination of like this glass ceiling, and it's
mm.
you could charge the cheapest in the city, and someone's always going to bitch that you're too expensive. And the flip side of that is you could charge the most in the city, and you'll always find somebody willing to pay it. And art, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, dude. Picasso, I think his art sucks. I'm not a fan of it,
I'm with you
but
there.
I'm sure that he's got priceless, multi-million-dollar paintings that look like a fucking child did them. Who am
Yep.
I to say that that's not worth that, you know?
Literally blue lines of a butt. And you're like, how much did that sell for? That really it doesn't matter what medium it is. You guys put what medium this is. It could have been fucking crayon. Okay, I don't care. It's fucking blue lines of an out of shape butt. This person's not even doing squats. It's not the, and it's a weird reference. It doesn't have any. I'm sorry to go on. I love it. I'm at the fucking museum, and all these people with I got the same audio tour going through my thing, and they're all oh, and they're pouring over this crap, this literal fucking crap. It's like, oh yes, this is worth it. I'm like, we're all sheep. We are sheep. We're just fucking bad. The genius of Picasso, and I love the man, if you can't tell, is that he knew it, recognized it, used it, and then used his I don't know. It's almost like he made you smell your own poop or something, and he used that to make his money. It's like, listen, yeah, the art world, it's shit. It's literal shit. If I act the right way, I can get more than if I gave a fuck, and I'm gonna do just that. And I did it, and now I'm friends with Dolly, and he has to actually do paintings. I
Exactly, man. It's funny that people will tattoo artists and clients alike will complain about a price of a tattoo, but on their wedding day will go and spend $2,000 to have their hair done for one day. Here you're dealing with something literally that you're going to take to the grave with you. And it's just we're at a revolution of, the art side of tattooing has been at that revolution point pretty much since I've started tattooing. Like, it just becomes amazing, and now it's to the point to where it's like, we know what we're doing, we got the best machines, the best ink, the best needles. Now it's going to rely on people's imaginations. And um
we're at a scary point with that.
it,
With that, I mean, the best of everything, just as you said. And now it is that. Where does it go?
Well, now the more business model, the more professional upper echelon is starting to step in, which I love a fucking walk-in shop too. Little tratty fucking bangers knocking out fucking tattoos left and right, doing walk-ins. That shit's great. I grew up doing that.
Mhm.
But for someone like, it's just like
That's a
uh,
grind still though, because it's not when your books don't fill up that way. When you can do a tattoo within 2 hours and be on to the next one, then there's also a lot of times you can make real good money for that day or that week. And then September to February is just, damn, how am I going to pay these bills?
man, totally. And that again, it resides on that people don't care that you know until they know that you care. And it that see the fun thing about recovery, and why I think I'm such a big fan and coach of TBM is because anytime I point a finger at someone, I got three pointing right back at me, and I am always the common denominator in any scenario. Even if I want to try and say that it's this or that, or it's the area of town I'm in, or the state I'm in, or because I worked at this past shop or whatever, if it's always resides on me. And if you've been in the tattoo industry a little bit and you have a dead season, well, if you're aware that it's coming, so it's like, well, what are some solutions we can do to implement to keep from having a slow season this
Mhm.
following year? What are some things that I can do to make sure that,
Avoid writing 50% off gift certificates for
oh
sale from
yes.
Thursday. Black Friday starts, and these tattoo shops are now just in the habit of killing their business during the fast season. And they don't recognize. I play Call of Duty. I watch UFC fights. I find a similarity to so much. It is so many things are about how you choose to spend your resources and recognizing what your resources are. And it people in business of tattooing don't recognize how they kill themselves by writing a 50% off gift certificate at
Man,
Black Friday and then spend February when they should be making that tax money. The only way I would say, if you want to run 50% off gift certificates, they can only be done from the month of September, or from the months if you wrote it in November, it can only be done in November to January, and expect that that's going to be you're making half off season, but at least you're making half.
right,
Because if you run that at all and limit the time during the fast season, that you're like, well, I'll have one day when I'm busy, I'll dedicate one day to doing these, gift certificates, but you're going to shortchange them. They're not getting the full. Yeah, they get the money and the time's worth, quotations marks, but you're not making those choices that bring it to that next level of tattooing. You're playing
exactly.
to a lower uh level, and that, so you're forcing it in. And now at the same time, your resources that should be spent right now in February on making that tax income money that's getting in everybody's pockets, hot footing it. They're like, I don't know where to spend it. I'm either going to get a plasma I don't know, they don't make plasmas anymore, do they? I'm either getting a big screen TV or I'm getting a tattoo. Well, if I'm busy doing a gift certificate, I'm not making that money, and I
Right.
just fucked myself.
I am not a fan of gift certificates, and we've had them briefly here at Aisle 9, and we never really did it. Basically, what it was just an exchange. So if you want a $200 gift certificate, then you just give us $200. But it's gotten to the point to where it just got confusing and stressful, and it's like, let's just kind of ixnay
Yeah.
the gift certificates all around. And I'm a big component of like raising our prices, like gas raises, and uh, prices for food raises. Like it's just the natural way that things go. And I believe that all the tattoo artists and listeners to this are way devaluing themselves. And it's important for people to have skin in the game, to actually you know, if you're serious and you really want this, well, that's cool. Give me a deposit. I'm big on deposits too. I take half down when I get a deposit because, like, if you're serious, then why not put half down now? That's just less money. When I get tattooed, the last few artists I get tattooed from, I love it when they take half down for a deposit because I forget that I gave them half down, and I'll show up with the full amount and be like, "Oh, I already
Oh, you
gave you the
got money in your
deposit."
pocket. Yeah.
Well, you know, I like being a giver because people gave it to me so much, so I usually just give it. I'm like, fuck it, it's a big tip for you, dude. But it's just good to know if you're serious, like, then let's play ball. You know, don't tease me with a good time.
That
Like, I,
reminds me, you gave me a Numa tattoo machine. You are a giver. And that
I
is, I found out from that Numa 4 tattoo machine because I had already bought the macro. And you were like, well, this will be, maybe if you want one setup because they're so changeable, you could use it like this or that. I was considering that. That Numa 4 is all around. I don't need the macro. I don't need the bigger engine.
yeah.
That little guy's nice, lightweight, easy to go, little loud, scares a lot of people off when they want if they're from the pen, they're like, wait a second, man. This is like I just heard a coil machine start up. But if when that thing hits the skin, it's like a coil machine too. And I've just fallen in love with that. Like,
Man, that's happy to hear,
thank you.
dude. Carson fucking is a disruptor of the tattoo industry for sure. And I love those machines, man. And yeah, total honor, dude. Like when I heard you talking about it, you know, I might get another one. And I was like, well, I got this extra one laying around. Let me go grab that real quick.
Dude, it is, I would recommend to anybody to try that's looking at the website. Carson, I think, has a problem on his website, and that is there's way too many options. He's such a tinkerer. You know what? I don't know if I told him this. I had him on the podcast. I don't know if I told him this. I hope I did because I'm going to say it now. Lyle Tuttle told me about Danny Fowler, something that I would apply probably to Carson Hill as well. Danny Fowler made the time machine, which was a beautiful machine. Back in the day, it was one of the coil machines that was the stamp. Like once you had a time machine, tattoo machine by Danny Fowler, like you had made it in the industry. And that thing had so many adjustments that Lyle said of it that it meant Danny Fowler played with his dick too much as a kid. I said, what? He says, isn't that what they say about tinkerers? They play with their dicks too much, and that's why I'm like, I'd never heard that before. But I'm going to say Carson has the same problem on his website. You get there, and a lot, I've talked to other artists that have felt overwhelmed by it, and they haven't made a purchase because they're like, I don't know where to go. So if you want to hear it from me, 20% is the stroke length you need to start with. Get the Numa 4, the cheapest one he's got. You get the bigger one when your work has gotten up there to where like I'm doing these huge back pieces. I pull out a 45 mag on a routine. You might need that bigger one. You actually though you use the Modus, right? Which is even the bigger one or the macro.
Yeah, so I'm blessed to be sponsored by Numa, man, and they've sent me both of them. Plus, I've had the Numa fours, and it's like, you know, speaking and talking and hanging out with Carson, he has that mind that never stops. And those two, I believe, now I might be wrong, were just from other artists because he's always real big into like knowing like where the weak link is. So you would
Mm-hmm.
hear feedback, and then I think that may have been where like the modus and the macro came from, is just tweaking the Numa 4 ultimately. But yeah,
Yeah.
dude, like the Numa 4, just the plain Numa 4 fucking pushes a 45. And I can't, I know it. The only reason that I know that there's a difference is because he told me there was. Other than that, like
Right.
it's like the same fucking machine.
Yes. Slightly different way. I remember we talked about the differences of the shift weight and then the weight of the engine in the macro and the modus too. And you find them to be more handy for the mode for doing shading work. But that
Yes,
was
yeah,
almost could be adjusted by simply buying a different grip with the Numa 4 too. If because he
totally.
has the shift grip available there too, right?
Yeah, I use the shift grip for my shading, and then like the heavy closer to the needle port
Yeah.
for my lining, so that way the weight just runs the line for me.
I
Um,
have that tube still that came with it because I bought a different one because I was like, because I thought I liked a heavier one too. And I was like, maybe that's a bit much.
but it's so cool because it feels like you got a fucking coil in your hand, and it's a little louder than normal pins, so it
Yeah.
kind of sounds like a coil. And I know that the
I get
website.
people that come up on me like that, like, dude, I thought you were using a coil again. What the fuck is that thing?
But yeah, I get a lot of people reaching out to me, and they're like, I don't know how to navigate this fucking website because there are options. But the cool thing is like once you pinpoint what you're wanting color wise and cosmetically and what type of machine, once you get it, it is so simply put
Yeah.
together that it's just like, oh, this is fucking easy.
It seems genius in its simplicity. Something very similar to his original Numa machine, which had a certain simplicity to it and a beauty to it as well. I just came across, I found it. I didn't know if I still had it. I just came across my Numa um, hybrid. Do you remember the hybrid one he had when he was switching and he had the battery pack or the motor hookup that went on the back of
So
it?
when I started, I remember looking and seeing magazines and with the pneumatics with the air compression, and
Mm,
they slowly kind of died out, and then I didn't hear about them anymore. But I just remember real early on thinking like, well, that's crazy, but it was cool to like see him come in with this Numa 4 now. So
yeah.
yeah, I may be
Well, the
still
the
too much of a
progression has
young
been
buck.
awesome. Oh yeah, he almost to me he almost killed his own product because when he had everybody thinking that maybe Nico was using Mike DeVries were using these all these amazing artists were using the Numa tattoo machine with that was pneumatic at the time. But they also had to deal with this air compressor at the tattoo conventions. Like you could set up your shop kind of, but it would took some retrofitting so that you could run these little awesome machines. And then there wasn't as much like speed control really either for him.
Mhm.
Um, but then he built the hybrid, and the hybrid turned it also so you could use it as an air machine, but then you could also use it um as a regular rotary machine. Well, as soon as that happened, I believe it broke the stigma in everybody's mind about not being able to use rotaries because they're like, wait a second, so that's just a rotary. I'll try a generation four, a generation one, or generation two, whatever the swash drives started coming out. I saw
Yeah.
Mike DeVries had one of those next, and I was like, oh, the wind's changing, you know? And
Yeah,
and I
I had a swatch drive actually while I was having coils because like I don't know if this is true or not, but I like to think that like rotaries came around because of prison machines because that's
yeah.
basically what we were using in the joint, with the Walkman motor.
Hmm.
So once those start, I remember the first time I tried a Cheyenne Thunder, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have to
You-
set up 5 machines to fucking
did you
run.
And did you start looking over your shoulder like there was a guard? You had to check for a guard that's
Yeah.
looking in on. You're like, I'm right back in the pen, man. But the
Oh,
cartridge system was awesome, though.
it was a game changer, and at that time I was still just a little baby, so like I fucking was like, how much is a box of cartridges? And they're like fucking $40. And I was like, $40? I ain't got that type of money. What the fuck? How much is the machine? And it was like 800. I'm like, hell no.
Yes. Well, that's left for those that do good tattoos, then I guess. I'll
Yeah,
be over here scratching with my Walkman, my modified electric guitar string. What kind of ink you using? Pelican? That's 32 bottles, $32 for 32 ounces. No, thank you. I've got petroleum jelly. I'll burn and collect the soot. It's
Yeah.
funny how that kind of thinking also holds you back though, doesn't it? I mean, you've realized that now, I imagine for sure.
Oh, you like
If
the lack mentality?
yeah, like I won't why $40 on a needle or that was it was $4 each one of those needles. And you're like, fuck, I might use four different needles throughout that. Now that you've just opened up the door for me to use all kinds of different needle configurations because I don't need to set up four different machines. So awesome. But now I got to pay $4 each one. There's $16 out there on my fucking lap cloth. And in my little my lizard brain, my what do you call it? Broke mentality. What was that?
Lack mentality.
Lack mentality. I choose not to. And yet my work then doesn't have that higher level. And
Yeah,
now I'm stuck down there in the mire, never being able to afford those sour grapes, you know?
man. Which is why, like, even more so of a miracle, or I'm just the blessing of like seeing something in Matt, and then like working hard to get to a point to where I was able to work by him, and him like start instilling that, like, that it's not the tyranny of or, but it's the abundance of and. So it's like, how can I keep working the way I'm working and save up money to get this Cheyenne or these $4 cartridges? And,
Or this course in TBM, actually, as I've heard people talk
yeah,
too. That as
yep.
people have told me, man, I don't have the money to get into this. And my understanding is sometimes spending the money itself, whether or not you're at least that's always been my mentality with doing seminars. Even if you get ripped off on a seminar, if you're like, that was not worth the money I spent, you never get ripped off because the money you spent helps increase your own interest to learn more. You might even
Exactly.
go and try and fill the gaps in what you spent. That you're like, I spent $150 this weekend, went to a seminar. We didn't do anything in that seminar I got anything from. So then I went to YouTube. Then I went to Google. Then I went to my shop. I had the same question. I knew what questions I wanted to ask now. All that money spent set you on that course. But when it's spent with the right place or position, people who understanding of what I hear is being taught at TBM. Because
Yeah.
honestly, I'm there too. I'm at a point now where because I this lack mentality, I recognize it, and that's as far as it goes. Do you follow me? I'm
And you
slowly
know,
getting into that, but
It, exactly, and that's fine, because that progression is the same with everybody, and it's mastery is never in end. There's no end to mastery. It's a constant growth of knowledge and relearning, because a lot of things that we teach, believe it or not, it's just remembering. Um, some people it's new to, but a lot of people we've heard along the ways, and it just never hit like it did. And even I still
okay,
suffer
yeah,
and lack mentality sometimes. But the big thing too about the community and why it's important is the therapeutic value of one tattooer helping another tattooer. So like that accountability point. I say that that's one of the indispensable principles with TBN is the accountability, because like we'll get in our head, and that fucking lizard brain and that monkey mindset will kick in, and we'll forget what we've learned, only for one of our brothers in the community or sisters in the community to be like, oh nah, we ain't living like that today. Don't you remember this and this? And you're like, oh, that's right. And we get to hold each other accountable and set each other back in the path.
yeah. Don't you remember this Clemerism?
Yeah, right.
Which I think we were talking. I heard you mention something that I think I took from him, and I've loved so much. I could be wrong. Help me know if I did. Um, I if I'm not the problem, I can't be the solution. Or maybe it was even if I'm not part of the problem, I can't be part of the solution. Is that something
So,
that is a Clemerism?
well, so that is actually what I say, and it's me just regurgitating recovery, because that's something we say in recovery. If I'm not the problem, there is no solution. And
Well, if you
basically,
dwell on that, man, that's got depth and it goes on and on.
dude, it took me 5 years being clean to actually feel what that was saying, which is basically I'm anything that happens, I'm a volunteer for it all. So I cannot complain about anything, because I If I do, then I'm the problem.
I
And
feel
like,
like there's a principle too. I'm sorry to cut you off on this, but I mean, there a duplicity to this as well. That if I want to find any problems, if I want to find any solutions, if I want to be solution oriented, that really also means I'm going to be finding problems all the time. I should be prepared for it. I shouldn't expect that they're drastic or something. Like, this is normal. If I'm going to try and be solution oriented, I'm going to have to be the problem a lot.
oh, totally, man. Because now you're talking about personal accountability and holding yourself to a higher standard. You know,
Hmm.
um, and
Racism is a problem. If I'm not that problem, I can't be a solution. So how can I be a solution to that problem? And you might say, well, I'm not racist. I can't fucking be a solution. So fucking I'm not going to do anything. Well, good. Nothing gets done. Well, not good, but nothing gets done. But even if I say, yeah, I'm not racist, but I can also speak up at times. I can advocate against, at times. I can, when someone leans in and does the look around about to tell me a joke, I can say, no, it's not cool. You know,
right.
like, these are all small things that I can do, but they will eventually. They are the only things that I can do, maybe, you know?
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Uh,
No. It's
so
beautiful.
that's actually, well, I love, good. I hope you get that back then, because gratitude is definitely has to flow your way then from me, because that has been a key part of, like, it just keeps going in my head. I love that so much, because now even anytime I have a solution, or, anytime I hear any problem that I might not feel a relation to, like, well, that's not my problem. I almost try to interject myself into that. Well, how can I be the problem here? Because now I'm also asking, well, how can I now be the solution?
Man. It's like the tribes back in the day, they would ask each other, how are the children? When they would speak to a neighboring tribe. And basically, what that was saying is like, if the children are good, then we are good. Even in our tribe, if your children are good, then my tribe and my children are good. So they would always ask each other, how are the children? Which is just goes to show that like we focus on the majority of life focuses on differences, but what we need to be focusing on is the similarities. Like, when I take a shit, I gotta wipe my ass just like you do. Um,
I got
and
a bidet, man. I'm step ahead.
oh, okay. Whoa, hey.
I became part of that problem. And
You
sorry.
got the
I,
solution.
but yes, it has to be cleaned. I'm following you.
Yeah, yeah. So, if we focus on the similarities and ultimately problems are just lessons. That's all they are. They're not good, bad, right, or wrong. They're just lessons. That's how it builds character. Imagine a life without problems. That would be so mundane and tedious and just boring.
I that is, yes. That I'm writing a play. I've never written it because I'm terrible at writing, but it is in my head in many different acts, six of them, and it's about a man who makes it to heaven. Um, and so I'm always thinking about heaven, and my I hear that there is, from my mother's Christian standpoint, in heaven there are no problems, and feel so bored. I'm like, you're not selling it to me. Like, she also tells me there's no cocaine, and I'm like, why am I not doing it now then? Is like, you won't want to have sex in heaven either. Like, whoa, mom, slow down. You want
you,
me to show up, right?
there was this, it's funny you said heaven because there's this atheist comedian that I like, and he said, for all you religious people out there waiting to get to heaven, why not make people around you feel like they're in heaven right now? And I was like, oh, damn, that's fucking powerful, man. Like, why wait? Why not start now? Why
And
not create heaven?
unironically, or I guess ironically, it is also a teaching of the Bible to make it heaven, to do these things that would make that so awesome. Like, oh, there's no judgment in heaven. Okay, that sounds really cool. Let's do that.
Yes.
There's so much empathy in heaven. There's no sickness in heaven. Oh, so like maybe we should work to making sure that people are not sick.
Yes.
like in a helpful way, not in a way like, oh, damn, he's sick. Sorry, fuck you, buddy. He probably did the wrong shit. Um, I look forward to the society that is going to be created from all of this. And so that's why, because I know that without, I dread every day. I'm such a, am I a hypocrite now? I don't know. I dread every day. I see articles on my environment, on my political environment. Just being, I live in Flint, Michigan, where they poisoned our water.
Yeah.
Uh, and I see that, and I don't know that it's some, it could really draw you down, and it does. But I also know that I'm part of the problem. I have to be. And the biggest part of this problem that I am is to always look on it so negatively.
Mm.
So these challenges that are huge, like environmental catastrophes, poisoning of large amounts of people's water, like these things, I have to be the problem in somehow to then be the solution. And one of the best things I can do is try to be positive about it, to inspire people to see these problems as challenges so that smarter people than me won't be scared to, because I ain't smart, I ain't fixed. I wouldn't have told, I probably would have poisoned them all here in Flint too. I'm like, saves $14 a day. Fuck yeah, we need to save some money.
Yeah, and see, like right there, you hit the nail on the head. Being the attraction versus promoting, you just be the attraction. You start to be, it's all right to think negative because we got negativity being thrown at us from all angles because that's what the media does. And fortunately, or unfortunately, like the positive side and the things that are happening that are good are more like a distinguished gentleman. They're just silent. They're not screaming like the negative is. But at
Well, I
any
had a
given,
reply, but I didn't think there was any room for me to interject with so many egos shouting.
yes, sir. Yeah, I do declare.
Oh, a Southern gentleman, right on. I just imagined English gentleman. I follow. Yeah. Well, you Mark Twain me up, and I will. I don't know. Is it Churchill? He probably wasn't a gentleman, though, was he?
Wasn't he the crippled?
I don't
The
believe. I think he had a cane in the end of his days, but
who was who was
in
in the
in
wheelchair?
in America, it was Roosevelt,
Roosevelt. Yep.
not Teddy. He was on the horse, but but yes, I do declare myself. I do declare I've had a blast talking with you, and I probably should wrap this up and let you get to your day. Um, and I want to thank you again because, especially now finding out that you're the one that I thought I had a Clemerism that just impacted my life so much, but it's a hipism,
It's a
which
regurgitated hipism.
it's you know what I is this ironic about I love working on recovery people.
Like
Like
tattooing them?
yeah, I hate fucking inspirational quotes on posters and calendars, but I love them when someone lives through them. And you just like when I'm tattooing them, and they're just like, "Dude, I'm just trying to do the next right thing." You know what I'm saying? You're like, "Yeah, I know you're saying you've been in 12 steps before, huh?"
Yeah, just for today, man. Just for today.
Just for the day. Yeah, I'm like, I know you know the Serenity Prayer. That's what I know. I don't know why I like that. So, but it does. It honestly, I think that I like it. I know that now that I think about it, I like it because I am often drawn, as we all are, to the negative. And these kind of positive, uplifting things become small answers to those same negative thoughts that dispel them. And I'm better without those negative thoughts. The problems I'm not better without. I'm not trying to put my head in the sand. I'm trying to, address them. And so that's why I like these hipisms, these Clemerisms. How did we become hip though? Hip is also, as I've just learned, an anagram.
Yes, it
Okay.
stands for helping inspire people. And it started about sixth grade. Um, I had real long hair. I listened to the Beatles and Zeppelin and the Doors. I wore my mom's bell bottoms. I had Woodstock t-shirts. I ate dirt and I worshiped trees and wore patchouli and did fucking macrame with little,
You, how much of this is serious? I can see all of
every
it.
single bit of it.
You did the macrame too?
Oh yeah, I made because like at
I
the
made
time.
macrame flipping off keychains and I'll look like a middle finger and it'll flip you off.
We'll see like I got into the hippie movement a couple decades too late, and everybody was wearing chain wallets, so I fucking had a pair of Jinkos on with a long hemp chain wallet, and I had like bullets and shit macrame into it and beads that I'd
Ah,
collected, so everybody was just calling me hippie, and eventually, I grew into other genres of music, and my heavy metal and death metal and hip hop and just a wide range of stuff. And then eventually just the hip, I still got a bunch of childhood friends and people when they see me, when they know that's my nickname, they'll call me hippie, but a lot of people just call me hip now.
right on. So it did start that early on.
It did, yes.
When did the anagram come in? Did you make it, was it at sixth grade that you're like, yeah, I'm all about highly inspiring people? Shit.
Fuck no. So
That's my
that
thing.
came, man, that came maybe like 5 years ago. When I first got clean, they said, you only got to change one thing and that's everything. So I still, in an anonymous room, I go by hip. And when I first came around, they're like, well, that's old behavior. You can't do that. And I was just like, fuck you, eat a dick. And I just kept it up. And
Right.
and over time, hip was like, hip hippie. That's who they knew me on the streets and in the drug world. So it was like, well, how can I make this mean something different than what
Different.
it used
Yeah.
to mean?
Helping inspire people. Easily as good as the back of Tom Brady's helmet, which I think is inspired change. Um,
Yeah.
man, I know way more about football. It's either here's two things that have happened. I don't know. One's funny and one's not. Or maybe it's tragic. I don't know. Uh the Lions are doing better than they ever have before since Peyton Manning and Dumb and Dumber's Jeff Daniels did removed a hex that a former quarterback, Bobby Lane, put on the Detroit Lions. Since they removed the hex, they have not lost a game.
Really.
True as shit. All right. Now, also, so that inspires something. Also, though, I wonder, like, my wife's far bigger fan than myself. And now that I am watching football, and she's kind of brought me into it. She's watching it Sunday morning. It's all day long. It was all day yesterday. It'll probably be tonight. It's today Monday. They do Monday night football too, I think.
I,
And
I
maybe I'm
believe I
just a pecker
remember.
peeper, man, but they're not wearing their cups. And I wonder if this change has occurred around the same time my wife's interest in these heavily athleticized, these guys are doing squats. I don't know if you know this, right? But there
Getting
is
that
not a member
testosterone going.
on that fucking team that is not doing, they're not wearing their cups. And these guys are just showing, I must be a pecker peeper or something. Maybe it's just me. All the guys I talk to are like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, you don't notice. I also noticed the fan base, all the market. If you watch the ads now, to prove that I may have, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just a pecker peeper, and you're right. Nobody else is seeing this. This is all just in my head, right? But the advertisement is very female now. There's a very heavy-handed female advertiser. There's still your basic, Budweiser commercial is going to make you sexy. Drink enough beer, the girl's going to think you're hot. That there's that. But now there's a lot more vacuum cleaners. There's there's a lot more perfumes being sold during the fucking Super Bowl. Just saying. Just saying.
Man, I used to I played football heavily and was pretty good at it in high school, but drugs took over. And as a little kid, I've never been big on watching it, but except when I was a little kid, my team was the Browns. And then
Cleveland
as I
Browns.
yep. And my
Just like your
brother,
your river down there, right?
oh yeah, yep.
It catches on fire. Okay.
Yep. Yep. And then we got the Bengals too. So we kind of got a streak of not winning shit either in Ohio.
That's why everybody likes the college so much.
Yeah, because they actually can do something.
Yeah, they see my Michigan tags and they got to pull me over, just be like, yeah. And before I write you this ticket, I just wanted to say one more thing. I saw that you're from Michigan. Go Bucks. Like, fucking hated that. I hate football, man. Fucking hate it. That just helps me hate it more, having to go through Ohio every time I leave Michigan to go anywhere out of this country, out of this state, you know? This is your cops that are just like, one, you're always working on when are your highways going to be done? Are they getting there? Is that yeah? Are they going to
Dude,
move to the potholes in the city next, or are they just going to leave them alone? I know that everywhere I go is a watch out. There's a cop. There's no road work going on. It's like you guys just go out to try and increase your revenues for your police officers so they can pull over people with Michigan tags. And because you guys all recognize that your hatred of Michigan fans runs so deep that you would even cut into someone like myself who, you know what? I'll say it. I hate Michigan too. I hate the team Michigan. Fuck the gold and blue. My brother's out there in state. That's the green and white or something. Fuck go state. Yay. Um, but your hatred of us runs so deep that you will allow your highways to be down to one lane just so that you can continually ticket Michiganders. Am I
that's so
wrong?
good.
Is this not
No,
part of the
dude,
meeting that you guys have?
I'm not big on the sports ball. As
The
a matter of
sports
fact,
ball.
when Michigan played, when was it? Thanksgiving. I was at my wife's uncle's house, and they're all Ohio State fans, but they don't know me too well yet. But two of my other buddies are OU fans, and they're fucking nuts about it. So every time Michigan would score, I would send them a meme and be like, "Yeah, fuck you, bitch. Let's go blue." So I'm the dude that will root for the opposite team if there's a
You,
majority of the other team in the
yeah,
room.
you did say you were the martyr.
Yes.
That's my favorite thing to see in the stands anytime they go out is like, that one jersey that's off color amidst everybody else. Either he's cheering the loudest or he's just shutting up the most, you know?
Yeah,
That's you.
last year when the Bengals went against the Rams at Super Bowl, they kept inviting, they kept wanting me to come over. I'm like, once I get done tattooing, I'll come over. As soon as I get there, I'm like, all right, let's go LA, baby. And they ended up beating the Bengals, and they were like, why in the fuck do we even invite you over here?
It was you. You did it. You're the one that made Matthew Stafford play so good, damn good. I don't even think he played good that game, if I recall. I think I watched that one too. I feel like that was uh I don't know. It was kind of a shitty Super Bowl, wasn't it? Like, oh, you
Well,
didn't even
being
watch
it,
it. What am I asking? I
I,
guess I should. I asked that because you're 8 foot tall. You're at least 250, brah. You should be on the line somewhere. You're right. You did used to crush it when you played football. Fuck them drugs got in the way of a career. Oh well, you would have blown out your ACL. It would have been
yeah,
terrible.
yeah, and then I would have gotten to tattooing real late, and fucking.
I used to be a pro baller, actually, to tell the truth. And now I blew up my ACL. I know a couple of football players that made Rich. He used to play. He was very good at it. I feel like another Mario Daggett, who is an actor now in Cali, but also is a tattoo artist. Gave me my first job in California ever when I was groveling on the streets.
Huh.
Um, but that's a story for another time. I know I'm taking you from your dad. Been having so much fun talking about pecker peeping football stars. I
Hell
guess
yeah.
I need to calm that one down, Kyle. Um, I'll let you get to it, brother. Thank you so much. Is there anything we should plug? We should tag Numa tattoo machines. I know we already covered because they're fucking awesome. We went over TBM, and I think people should look into TBM. Consider having a course and going through TBM to improve your tattooing. And there is your Instagram that we talked about that was hip underscore. Could you remind me again?
Hip underscore 81.
80, was that the year? That can't be the year you were born.
It is.
Oh, you're a younger. You're a young kid. You're like this. You were growing up in the strange times days,
Yes.
or what
Yes,
they
I
tell
did.
me it was. Right on. Uh,
A lot of
and
Duran
any
Duran and roller skating.
weird haircuts, flocks of seagulls.
Oh yeah. Tears
What?
of Fear.
What what else should we? Is there anything else to talk of, or
Uh,
to send people into the direction of?
Instagram for Tattoo Guardians at the Tattoo Guardians podcast. Like, share, hit the like button, follow button,
I
and
should
yeah, just
let me hold you on for another 5 minutes to talk about that. Is that fair? Do you got that time?
yeah,
Because
for sure.
now that I think about it, I wanted to Tattoo Guardians podcast is
Yes.
awesome. And if everybody definitely listen to what one thing that I want to say that I love about podcasting is just that this reciprocal kind of community where there's not all this backbiting. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
it feels not like tattooing. Like as I've done podcasts, now it seems like people are accepting and I don't know, cool all the way around. Like this is where people want you to excel because their platform helps your platform excel, if that makes sense. It's not like a huge competition. Everybody has enough time in their day to listen to podcasts.
Man, which is funny because it's like that you could take a note from that and apply it to the tattoo industry. So it's like, hey, local shops, you can go to other local shops and fucking you guys can both thrive and help each other out instead of hate each other.
Have you found in your industry then in your area where you're at? I know that Clemmer's got it. He's got to be a lightning rod for distrust and hatred from the same. It's got to be.
100%. And it just drapes over into aisle nine, and
Then
just
how is
because
it around the area as shops related to you? Are you able to have friends in that area? Do people backbite that kind?
the crazy thing is, and I don't know if it's like just the one trick ponies, but it seems like the higher up you get and like the more you broaden your foundation, meaning like traveling, meeting other people in other areas, those people that do the same are fucking sweethearts, humble pie, super cool, willing to help. But when it's like the one trick ponies of people that think conventions are rigged and everything's photoshopped and you can't learn nothing, just stay here and figure it out yourself, that's where it seems that every area I go to, there's always those group of shops. So like Truth and Triumph, those dudes are sweethearts. Brian Brenner, that's Matt's mentor. He's also mentored Cotterman and Big Knees. We're cool with Kyle. Big
I'm
Knees
well
has got a
familiar
shop.
with and his son Brian Brenner has a son that tattoos as well. Am I wrong?
He is starting to do an apprenticeship.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we I've seen Brenner's work. He was one of the first people from Ohio that really had like a unique that I noted. I shouldn't say first person in Ohio, but that I noted, and I was like, I can see his pieces walking. You know,
Oh yeah, dude, still the same. Like I can see his pieces and Matt's work is how profound it is, and that spilled over into another artist, Zach, and I can see Brenner's work in Zach. So that's two generations down from Brian. Like he is very. I'm
that's
so
awesome.
envious to know that like that to have a style that is so profound that people just know, which ultimately all stems from Saint Mark.
Really?
Yeah,
Did he
he's
teach or he was working with Brenner?
yep,
They're
him
about
and
the same
Brenner.
age, or
They started together. St. Mark was tattooing before then. And a funny story, the Salem Mall here in the west side of Dayton, St. Mark and Brenner used to be spray painting t-shirts at the mall, and then they just got a wild hair up their ass, and St. Mark went and started tattooing, and Brenner followed. And
no?
Carlton is a part of that legacy. So like there's a lot of fucking history when it comes to like
I love that.
legends in the industry from Dayton. Man, I'm lucky to be here.
That is awesome. I love that because I wasn't aware. Obviously, Carlton. I knew I didn't even know that he was influenced by Mark St. Mark in such a way until I heard the podcast. I don't know
Man,
that I got to get all the way through that. It might have been a short trip that we were taking, but I love that. Like I well because I love Mark. He's pretty awesome.
yeah, dude. He's a Vayer poker too. I appreciate it. But it was a beautiful thing because that night at the podcast, um, Matt, me, Brenner, and Carlton were all paying homage to him, and he was like sitting back, like very humble and meek, and just like receiving the compliments of like all these people in the room are there because he's there.
Was it tough for? I would want to get out of that room so bad. Was it tough for him?
I
Because he's
I don't know
Marks
him
can be
soup.
conceited, but he is playing a character.
He
Anytime I've
is.
seen him conceited.
He is. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know who the fuck he was. I just knew he was that douchebag on fucking Ink Master that was calling himself a tattoo god. And then I
Yes.
heard people start talking about Mark Agee, and I'm like, I asked Matt, I was like, who the fuck's Mark Agee? He's like, Saint Mark, and I'm
St.
like, you
Mark.
mean fucking dickhead on Ink Master? He's like, yeah, he's the reason we're here. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. And then so I started like studying my history, and I'm like, I'll be goddamn. He's like my great 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 grandpa.
Yeah, he's in your lineage. That's
Man,
that's fucking awesome. All right. This time for real. I have stayed too long. I have said too much. So I'm going to get off of here. Hip, I really appreciate you being on here, man. Look forward to seeing you on the road. Sorry. Thanks.
man,
Thanks for talking. Mhm.
happy to do. Thank you. It was such an honor.
No problem.